Thank you, Lyron. Really appreciate you joining XRO, which is India's first feature tech podcast. So, to my audience who don't know about you, I'm going to give them a brief introduction and then we'll jump dive into the conversation. So, Mr. Lyron Bentovim is the CEO and president of the one-stop shop for VR AR business solutions company, the Glimpse Group. He holds an MBA from Yale School of Management and a law degree from the Hebrew University. He has over 20 years of experience in executive management, technology investment, and entrepreneurship. Thank you, Lyron. Really appreciate and honor to have you on the show. So let's start with the one-stop shop. I want to know what the Glimpse Group is all about. Okay. So can you start with that?
Yeah, so kind of if you look at Glimpse Group, it has basically a kind of unique value for different audiences. And kind of we try to craft a unique vehicle that actually makes sense for all three of these. So I'll start with the entrepreneurs. And kind of as an entrepreneur, you know that kind of starting a company is very challenging. There's a lot of different elements that come into play. And you need to have all of them kind of basically come at the same time for you to be successful. So the first thing, obviously, you need to look in the world and find that there's some need, some problem that you identify. And once you identify a problem, then you need to figure out how to solve it. So those are two hard ones to start with. Once you do that, you don't not only need to do that and do that well, but you need to figure out how to raise capital to actually run your business, and then how to operate it and run it as a business so it's successful, because you could actually have a problem, figure out how to solve it, raise some money, and then if you run it as a bad business, you'll get out of business pretty quickly. So looking at all those challenges, many entrepreneurs don't have the skill set, either individually or as a team, to address all of these. And one of the things that Glimpse gives our entrepreneurs is the ability to focus on those elements of those problems that they're good at, and we take care of everything that they're not good at. So that's kind of one thing for entrepreneurs, especially in early stage industry, which obviously XR is right now probably year 6, year 7 in a 35-year cycle. And in early industry, the market is still kind of testing things out. Everybody's just doing pilots and trying things out. There's not mass adoption across both the enterprise or the consumer level. And therefore, it's kind of hard to get positive feedback from the market when you come up with a new product. And it's very lonely, and it's hard to kind of innovate in this environment, because you can't get advisors and mentors that have done this in this industry because they don't exist. They're still doing it right now. And Glimpse offers that to the entrepreneurs. So this is kind of the package for entrepreneurs. For our customers, it's the ability to work with multiple startups under one umbrella, where they only need to deal with one entity, and they can get whatever problems that they need solved with XR solved by our companies. So it's a pretty big deal. Large companies don't like to work with startups because they're afraid they might go away. They're too small. They don't know how to deal with them. And Glimpse gives our companies scale. So when our companies get together, suddenly we're a relatively large company, definitely in the XR space. And we have kind of people on the team that know and have worked with large enterprises and know how to communicate with them, how to sell to them, how to service them. And we bring all that to bear, and serving our customers better than each individual startups could on their own. And the third group is our investors. And investors are looking, if they believe in where XR is going, they're looking for an investment. But investing in one-off startups is very risky, because especially early industry, even if you're betting on the right team and the right problem, they might fail. And we are providing our investors a diversified way of investing in the space, where they're investing in multiple teams and have multiple shots on goal, including companies that we haven't really brought into Glimpse that they will get to benefit from if we bring it in. And all in a unified management, where our companies are more likely to be successful because of all the value that Glimpse and the ecosystem brings to them, and they're more efficiently managed, and you've got multiple shots on goal, so our investors are getting kind of a significantly better investment than investing in any one-off company.
So yes, Lyron, I must tell you that definitely it's a very unique model. It's a one-of-its-kind model, the one-stop shop. Would you like to talk more about that? You obviously spoke about the entrepreneurs, the customers, and the investors. How are you leveraging all of them to create a viable business solution?
So the philosophy behind it is, first of all, the power of the group. So creating an environment where everybody is helping everybody. We call it the Glimpse ecosystem, where kind of we're incentivizing everybody to look at the whole success. Obviously, we need entrepreneurs and their teams to focus on their specific subsidiary success, because otherwise they're not driven to succeed. But we also want to incentivize them to look at the bigger picture, look at Glimpse as a whole, and almost at the VR, AR ecosystem as a whole, and make sure that that's successful. And kind of be there for each other, create those synergies and scale that helps companies go forward. And that stickiness of the ecosystem really kind of powers kind of the Glimpse entity.
Right. So yes, I think the core of a sustainable industry is an ecosystem, and not many people understand the importance of an ecosystem. I have been invested in the AR/VR industry since early 2016, and I have been nurturing and nudging India's AR/VR industry with the only sole vision to build an ecosystem which can create a sustainable industry. So that's the reason, whatever I've been doing, right from Immersion VR Fest to XROM, the news magazine, or the podcast, and right now the XR Bazaar is designed with a larger goal to create a community and an ecosystem. Because I personally feel that if the ecosystem is there, it will eventually lead to a sustainable industry. So COVID, right? Everybody is impacted. Yeah. So there are these people who be saying that suddenly digital has been accelerated. All companies which once was talking about the digital transformation is actively leveraging or adopting digital. From your vantage point, what are the pros and cons of COVID?
So obviously, kind of all in perspective, kind of COVID has been kind of a big disruption to us, and we've lost millions of lives around the world. So that's kind of putting that as kind of the big pain, and kind of has caused a lot of suffering, both in terms of loss of life and loss of friends and family for people, but also unemployment and kind of other challenges that kind of governments around the world are facing. But putting that aside, looking at kind of the impact on business and putting that kind of human element aside, there's kind of obviously the short-term negative has been that kind of it basically disrupted business everywhere. And everybody just kind of basically put the brakes on and say, I don't know what's going on. This has not been in anyone's kind of roadmap or kind of potential kind of scenarios that you kind of try and kind of plan for. And the whole economy basically stopped. So from early March, at least in the US, until mid-June, there was basically kind of no new business to be had. Now, that means there's no new bookings. Obviously, our teams continue to work on developing their solutions. All of our teams and everybody has kind of gone remote. And I was surprised kind of how effective working remote was. Kind of the power of Glimpse was the kind of, and the center of the ecosystem was our office. Everybody was here, everybody worked with each other, everybody saw what everybody's working on, and suddenly all of that was gone, and we were forced to use technology to continue to kind of keep that kind of ecosystem together. So obviously we've, as a VR company, we have actually used VR, and we've done meetings in VR and events in VR. And also using more traditional technologies like kind of video calls and kind of an email and Slack and all the different ways of communicating. But as I look over the last, crazily that we're almost 6 months, kind of post 6+ month, kind of post, kind of when the COVID really got to the US, productivity has gone up rather than down, if I had to guess. So at the end of the day, people kind of had to commute into the office from everywhere. People spent kind of an hour each way commuting to the office, and now people have 2 more hours. That many times part of that, if not all of it, has gone to work. And since there's no separation, now you're working from home, you're actually probably working more hours. I definitely see in myself, I have a lot more hours without the commute. And the other kind of thing that kind of has come up is, even though business was basically stopped from March until kind of mid-June, where it kind of started kind of unfreezing, we had probably more incoming business discussion requests during that period than we've ever had. So on one side, deals that you thought you were going to close very quickly kind of either slowed down or disappeared because people were taking a very cautious approach to kind of spending money. On the other side, organizations you haven't been talking to basically started calling you and wanting to hear more about the solutions and seeing how they can address their business. Now, those discussions are now in play, and kind of, as kind of you probably know, kind of closing deals in early cycle industry is a long sales cycle. Nobody comes in and kind of wants to buy things, and 2 weeks later they kind of they leave with what they have in hand. They're exploring and then trying to figure out and kind of trying to understand the budget, and everything takes a while. But we have initiated quite a lot of discussions with a lot of kind of very large organizations that basically started when the pandemic hit. They realized that they want to explore using XR as a tool to achieve their goals where they can't communicate in person with their employees, with their customers, with their partners, with their kind of with their teams.
Right. Yeah. So yes, I mean, obviously there are definitely the negative points which you said were pointed out towards unemployment being at the highest at this point in time. The economic impact, India is terribly impacted. We are down 24%. Our GDP has plummeted 24%. This has never happened in a 40-year history. So now, how long will it take for us to recover and come back to normal is anybody's guess, right? You also pointed out that you hold the first mover advantage, having nurturing 10 plus startups in your cohort. You obviously adopted remote work, and remote work has its pros and cons. Your geography becomes history. You don't need to travel. You can work from home. Work can be more productive, and you're giving more hours, from working at home. Yeah. So we are getting into this new world. People keep on saying that the new normal. I was trying to grasp it, but now I'm understanding that everything is changed, and somehow, from my vantage point, I feel that nothing is going to go back to normal because people have tasted blood. What I mean by that is, like, I run a traditional company where I service advertising agencies and production houses. Now, my studios used to charge a certain sum. Now, the same thing which I used to do can be done remotely, and those engineers are doing it less than half the price. Now, once they've got used to that, now getting them back to,
not happening.
So that's going to be difficult. We're going to jump into a world which is going to be more competitive. I'm pretty much happy about that because it's going to give everybody a chance. It's going to somehow create a level playing field where we humans are resilient. Everybody is becoming an entrepreneur. So I'm excited about the new world, and maybe this could be a minor roadblock for the entire human race to understand the wrongs that we are doing, correct those wrongs, and move into this beautiful future which is going to happen with the help of the fourth industrial revolution. So tell me, if startups are looking for investing, or a venture capital firm is looking to add more equity to its firm, how difficult or easy the roadmap is going to be ahead?
That's an interesting question. I think investors have two tendencies that kind of, you've got two types of investors, and you need to find the right one. So there are some investors that are scared. So something happened, something has changed the world, and they basically say, you know what, kind of, why would I want to invest risky capital into an uncertain world? And that is definitely a negative for capital raising. On the other hand, you have a lot of smart investors that understand that the opportunity is when there is kind of basically chaos in the street. And right now there's definitely chaos in the streets. And that's where the opportunity is. If you are a startup that has understood the impact of COVID on the industry you're trying to serve, and actually have a solution that ties into that, you're in good shape. If you can find those smart investors, you can raise money and then really kind of have a situation where you can lever the pandemic to your purposes and establish yourself as a company. If you are not kind of benefiting from it, or you haven't adjusted your plan for that, is going to be really tough, because the smart investors are not going to go with it because you're clearly not reading the tea leaves. And kind of the scary investors are definitely not going anywhere near you. And that will be challenging. So you really need, as an entrepreneur, to look at what's out there, look at how the world has changed, and see how your story as a startup fits that new changed world.
Right. Yeah. So yes, I think you rightfully pointed out. I mean, there are going to be a certain group of investors who are going to be scared to invest in this uncertain world, but the brave investors will know that this is an opportunity. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to what's going to happen next. So would you I believe you have close to around 10 startups in the Glimpse Group, right? Would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, so right now we actually have 8 that are active. So we've kind of done some consolidation. Part of that reacting to what the world is telling us, and part of the advantage of Glimpse is we can move things around and kind of consolidate or move resources and make sure that we're putting our effort in kind of areas where we think there is kind of significant upside. So I'll kind of talk briefly about kind of our companies and talk about the industries that they are addressing. So I'll start with our corporate training and learning company called Adept. And Adept is positioned to really benefit from what's happening in the pandemic, because they're focusing on using virtual reality and somewhat augmented reality to support both corporate learning and training, which kind of, I think VR is a perfect tool for in good days, but now where you can't get people in the same room to kind of learn together or bring the trainers to meet them with the people they need to train is something that every organization needs to do. But they're also working with higher education, universities, and we've recently had classes done in virtual reality. Obviously, kind of universities in the US are all trying to deal with the situation differently, but many of the classes has gone online. And obviously, kind of doing classes in Zoom is very challenging both for the students and the professors. And doing them in VR gives a much more immersive experience and opens up a full set of tools that the professor can use, from virtual road trips, taking students to see certain things in 360, to kind of whiteboards and sticky notes, and kind of just having an immersive discussion and presentations that the students can make, all in virtual reality. So we're seeing more and more schools that are exploring that. Next of our companies I'll talk about is D6 VR. They focus on data visualization in virtual reality. So bringing in data from multiple sources and seeing that in 3D or in actually 6D, allowing you to benefit from VR and see all the different dimensions, really get insights into the data and see where it is. And they also have, as part of their solution, what they call the hyperdesk, which is 18 screens in a room where you can basically put everything you need on those screens, whether it's kind of charts or kind of live websites or data, and kind of basically be in a control room where you can look at that and figure out where it's going and what needs to be done. Again, we've had some corporations that were interested in using that as control room, since they can't get their people into their control room, or they want to have access to their virtual control room from home. And there's a limit what you can do with your screens. You can have 2 or 3 screens at home, so you can't have 18. And kind of all those big rooms with all those big screens, now you can replicate that in virtual reality. Next of our companies is Early Adopter. Early Adopter focuses on kind of K-12, so kindergarten to kind of a 12th grade education, and working with innovative schools and school systems to bring, at this point, mostly augmented reality into the classroom. They've done some virtual reality, but obviously with limited headsets and not a lot of budgets to bring headsets, it's going to take longer to bring headsets into kind of most schools. But augmented reality students can actually do with the smartphones that most of them have, or tablets that the schools already acquired, or reasonable to kind of to get for the school, and creating very immersive ways to interact between students, teachers, and sometimes parents. So we had one of the schools showcase their students' end-of-year work in augmented reality. They created rooms where, kind of using our technology, where the parents could come in and talk to the students about what they've worked and see it in augmented reality in their homes without physically going to the school. So that was very powerful. The next company I'm going to talk about is Pagoni VR. They have a solution called Chimera, which is a very unique solution that creates a hybrid world where half of the world is a live or VOD 180 video. And so you can stream live events or individuals or things that are happening. And the other half is a fully immersive computer-generated world in VR. So you and I could be students and talking to each other while we see a lecture happening and communicating back and forth with the professor that is in the video element. So we see them, they're not an avatar, they're not with a headset, they're comfortably in their office or schoolroom. And we're students kind of sitting there and talking to each other and having our presentations with us, and we can fully do that. But that could also be done for entertainment if we want to watch a concert and interact with the entertainer or with each other, or for religious services, where if you can't go to church or you can still kind of go to the virtual church, talk to the people sitting next to you about kind of the service, and then watch a full live interactive service, whatever religion or denomination you're part of.
Right.
So that's a very unique solution that we're kind of trying it out with a lot of different use cases very successfully. The next group is Fortel. Fortel focuses on social virtual reality, mostly for support groups. So if you're kind of in need in the group therapy, obviously right now, but in other times it's very kind of time conductive to kind of go and kind of into wherever the therapy is, and sometimes there's nothing available where you are at, or sometimes you want to have kind of anonymity or privacy, and kind of if you want to go to kind of a therapy that kind of might put a stigma on you. So virtual reality allows you to do all of those from the privacy of your home, but have a fully immersive and interactive session with the people on the other side, both with the therapist and with the other people in the group. So they're working with multiple groups in multiple locations around the world to create those immersive therapy sessions. Next group is Immersive Health Group. They're focusing obviously on using virtual reality and augmented reality in healthcare. Their biggest focus area is nurses training and creating situations where nurses can practice and kind of in an immersive environment. Using the technologies, kind of they'll bring in technologies from some of the other groups at Glimpse to really kind of create a different way for nurses to practice and learn what they need to in an environment where then they can go to in front of patients and know what they're doing and kind of and try different things out. The next group is Create AR. They have a solution called Post Reality, which is an augmented reality activation that allows anyone to basically activate anything, whether it's posters or signs or books. And they have a SaaS solution that is self-served. You can just go in and activate anything on your own without kind of needing to interact. Or if you want a white label solution that kind of ties to your brand and has more capabilities, they work with the customers to do that. And last but not least is QReal, which creates a lifelike 3D object using either kind of art or photogrammetry, and then works with brands to take those objects and bring them to the people. Very in need right now, given the pandemic, whether it's kind of shoes or ski goggles or kind of burritos, people want to see things before they transact with them. And it's a great way for brands to use augmented reality to interact with their customers when their customers are home and not at their store.
You have given me data of 8 companies, and they are all different. Curial, you said, is looking into retail and photogrammetry, and I guess that's the future. I guess each and every company right now is looking at digitizing. I'm talking about e-commerce, right? Because that's the way to go. Physical companies, nobody is entering malls. So then you spoke about education startups. You spoke about health group. I mean, you've got a cohort of really, really, really cool startups. Can you explain to us how does it function? How does it work? Are you investing in those startups? What if you are? What is the ticket size that you're investing in? What does the startup get from joining your Glimpse group? Are you giving them office space? So can you share a little bit more detail to
Yeah.
my audience?
Yeah, so this is the unique element of what we do. First, very important, we don't invest in the startups, we acquire the startups.
Right.
So if a startup kind of basically becomes part of Glimpse, they're fully part of Glimpse. And when we acquire them, we actually acquire them for shares in Glimpse. So when a startups come in, they become part of the family. They obviously still we create kind of an incentive and upside for them if their startup is successful, especially if there's an exit out of it. But they're kind of getting, when they come in, a piece of Glimpse as a whole that allows them to benefit from success of any of the Glimpse companies that are part of Glimpse. So that's a very important distinction. We're not coming to a startup and say, here's $500,000, give me a piece of your company and good luck with that. We're not coming to them as incubators and accelerators and say, why don't you come in for 3 months, we'll give you all these services and in return give us a small piece of your company. We are basically saying, if you want to be part of Glimpse, you get acquired by Glimpse, you get Glimpse stock, and now you're working for your company. You're doing the same thing you were doing before, but now you're part of a bigger thing. What people get when they come to Glimpse has multiple facets. First of all, as I said earlier, we give you the ability to focus on what you're good at. So if your passion in life is building a certain technology, you don't really want to run around looking for investors all day long. You don't want to be talking to lawyers about contracts. That's not what you kind of started the business to do. You want to build your technology. So we allow you to do what you do well and what you're passionate about, which for most startups is envisioning their product, building their product, and taking that product to market. So that's what we want you to focus on. If you're good at all three of these, great. If you're not, we will help you find people that will offset the things where you're deficient at, so you have a team that can actually go get that done. The second thing you get is access to the Glimpse ecosystem. So now you're part of this family, and everybody is going to help you. You can lever the talent that exists across all the different companies, their knowledge, and they've got kind of combined kind of hundreds of years of technology knowledge within our teams, and different skill sets and different technologies that we have expertise in. But also you can actually build your solution on top of other companies' technology, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And we have things that we've built at Glimpse, either collectively in Glimpse or as part of different companies, that you can lever and build upon that. So you can really focus your efforts on your secret sauce, what's special about your company, rather than saying, well, I need to have user management solution, so I have to start from scratch because kind of obviously my users need to be managed in some way. So we can address that. Obviously, once you're part of Glimpse, Glimpse funds all of your development. So we're not saying here's kind of $500,000, here's $100,000. You come in, we work with you to understand what you need, and then we fund all of that. So kind of obviously you get all of that, and you also get Glimpse to take care of everything that is not core to what you're doing. All the back office functions, legal, finance, accounting, HR, all of these are done by Glimpse, and real estate when real estate was relevant. All of these technology, all that stuff is done by Glimpse for everybody. So you can focus on really what you're good at.
Lovely. How cool is that? So tell me, I mean, obviously you saying you take care of all the nitty-gritties of the lawyers, the contracts, or the investment. So has there been any investor interest in the startup? Has there been has any of the startups been acquired?
Not yet, and that's on purpose. Right. There's no rush from us to kind of have companies leave Glimpse. They're growing and they're maturing and getting obviously as the industry is successful and as they're kind of succeeding even more than how the industry is growing, then kind of they're appreciating value. So there's no rush for us to kind of let them go. The plan is, as they mature and the situation is right, and when we bring in the right type of investor or partner into them to raise money into our companies, and then can continue to bring new ones in and go through that process. But we have not been in any rush to do that. So all of our companies are still under Glimpse's umbrella, but kind of all of our companies are still with us. They're succeeding. Some of them have been working with us for 4 years, and kind of, which is significantly larger than the lifeline of a usual startup. So they're doing pretty well for themselves.
Lovely. So what's the process of selecting a startup, and is this only for the US geography, or are you open to having other startups from possibly India joining the Glimpse Group?
So a couple of things on that. So the process has two sides. So many times, almost always, the startups actually come to us and say, kind of, I've seen what you guys are doing. I want to be part of this, kind of, and let's figure it out. What we do internally is we look at areas where we don't have a strong preference. We don't have a solution for a certain situation. And we look to find companies that kind of diversify what we're doing. So if we have a company that's doing one thing and another company comes that does the same thing, we don't want to have two companies that are competing with each other. That will ruin that situation. So if that happens, what we would do is probably try and combine them together, if that makes sense, and kind of the personalities and strength of each one of the companies makes sense. We would do that, and we've done a couple of those. But as we start the process, what we're looking for really are teams that are creative, out-of-the-box thinkers. So they're not kind of, they're willing to move, because kind of our strategy is very fluid. We react to what we see out there. We know where we want to go, but we don't want to be too rigid. So we need people that can go with the flow and kind of understand that they want to be team players. If people, it's all about me, it's all about ego, that's probably not the right place, because kind of you're joining a team. I think kind of entrepreneurship usually is a kind of individual sport, but I think it should be a team sport. And that's what we're trying to build. And in terms of the geography question, I have two answers. Kind of before COVID, my thought was we're going to open hubs in different locations. There's kind of strength in numbers, get a few kind of companies in one location. And as I was looking internationally, and I've kind of talked to a few people in India about potentially opening up Glimpse India, I wanted to find a local partner that can basically build a joint venture of Glimpse India, and then that entity will find startups in India that fit what we're looking for, and create that synergy between that entity and the Glimpse companies in the US and in other places in the world. Now I'm less tied to geography. I still kind of have that philosophy, but if I find the right company wherever it is, I'll probably be open to having discussions about them kind of being part of what we're doing.
Lovely. How cool is that? Because I guess COVID has done that. It's made geography history. And there are entrepreneurs all around the world who are crazily inventing some really, really cool stuff. In India, we have around 200 plus startups. The problem over here is, like I said, I mean, the ecosystem is not there. The community is not there. The investment is not there. But there are some really, really young, crazy entrepreneurs who are doing some crazy stuff. And I believe, I think in another couple of years, India will definitely come in the global AR, VR market. So you spoke about the egos. I mean, so what have been the learnings or the challenges of handling 8+ startups?
Oh, there's a lot of learnings, but the first thing is kind of bringing in the right people is key. As we look at people now that we've learned what works and what doesn't, kind of you need to fit into the family. So it's not only that you need someone that kind of is talented, they have a great concept, we believe that they can kind of build it and execute on it, but we need someone that will fit into what we're doing, because kind of now we've got our culture, and our subsidiaries, it's kind of funny, they have their own cultures. Each one of the subsidiaries has their own culture, but they fit together with the Glimpse culture. And where we've had the most success is where people really buy in on what we're doing. they want to come in not because they need funding and this is an option. That might work with an investor, and even that's probably problematic if you get an investor just because you need money and that investor's style or what they're looking for is different than what you're looking for. You're asking for trouble. We try and really bring in companies that will fit in, that will become part of what we're doing, that will add value. And one way we're looking at it is how much value are we, both Glimpse Management, but also all the other Glimpse subsidiaries, can help that company. It's not just, okay, kind of they need some funding, I've got some money, I'll kind of work with them. Is, can I really help them succeed? And the other side is, can they not only kind of be a good part of Glimpse, good investment, and kind of will put some money in and kind of get more value down the road, but can they make Glimpse better? Can they help other Glimpse companies? Can they make the whole significantly better than kind of the sum of the parts? And if the answer is yes to all these questions, then that's probably a good thing to bring in. So it's all about people at the end of the day.
Lovely. Thank you, Lyron, for being part of XRM podcast. I think you're building a fantastic company, a one-stop shop solution. I think it's an extremely unique model. There, I can't think about. I've been invested in this space, but I can't think about another company who's doing what you're doing. Obviously, there are incubator, accelerators, and things like that. But nobody has got 8 or 10 AR/VR companies with these different sectors of expertise. You leveraging them, sustaining and thriving, building an ecosystem. And I'm sure in another couple of years, there'll be these investors hungry to invest in your companies because you have built an ecosystem, a complete ecosystem. And I guess that's the best part about that. So any last words to my listeners, and what are you most excited for the future of AR/VR?
Oh, I'm thrilled. We are, in my view, in year 7 or year 8 of a 35-year road. And if you look at past technology cycles, the fun stuff is just coming up. We're working away, building this industry, and it will serve all of us kind of for many years to come. So I'm super positive about where this is going and kind of all the indicators. And to entrepreneurs out there, just go do it. Kind of, if you believe in something and you're passionate about it, don't hesitate. Just go make it happen, and good things will happen. And we are always interested in partnering with anyone. Kind of, some companies, it makes sense for them to be part of them. Sometimes they're just good partners on the outside, and we can do things together. So we're always looking for that.
So collaboration in the future, yes, obviously I'm going to leave the note behind that Mr. Lyron Bentovim is open for partnership. And yes, you said the fun stuff is just coming up, and entrepreneurs and the crazy startups need to understand that we are entering the world of the spatial computing, where we're going to jump dive from the restriction that we have been put to with a 2D medium and get into the 3D world, where we'll be touching, feeling these digital objects exactly how we experience things in real life. So we entering a fantastic space. I'm super excited for it, and that's the reason I've been vested in it. And yes, I mean, the fun stuff is just coming up. And what a great note to end on. So to my listeners, if you like what you see and hear, please press the subscribe button. Until next time, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you, Lyron, for being part of Excellent Podcast. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.